mud.
Welcome to part 2 of how to bend up brake pipes. We're going to take this, make it look something like this. Sinister little pipe here, and you're probably thinking, Mark, you're just a moron. But it's really not that simple to get both ends dead nuts on, to get this so it straddles the caliper and the length right, so everything fits where it's supposed to be. So the next 53 seconds are a recap, and the recap does not have all of the good stuff. So you're gonna have to watch part 1 for the good stuff. Go ahead, I'll wait. Well, we need something that goes from here to there, one that goes there, and one that goes there. A British brake pipe. This is metric. So we have metric and SAE. Short answer, yeah. These are not interchangeable. Not only because the thread pitch is wrong, because the bubble flare is wrong. And you just stick it there and you run it around there. 7.5 inches. 7.5 inches. So put that there, and there you go. One girling flare. I think I made that a little too long. This isn't good. That looks like a brake pipe clip. That's missing. And here I thought I just welded up the hole. That needs to be over here. Son of a bitch. This came out of a right-hand drive car. I don't have a right-hand drive car.
Oh, nice V12. Yeah, I need to get over there. What happened? Oh, Lord. Wow. Maybe I should stick to voiceovers. I'm just gonna hop in here.
What the heck?
Oh. Whoa.
I'm all right. Whoa, talking about taking the long way around. Yeah, welcome to the garage. Yes, we are talking about brake lines, well, specifically crossover pipes, like I said a little while ago. And, before I get into that, I really want to talk about kink. Did you know that there are 6 entries in dictionary.com for kink? I bet you didn't know that. Bet you didn't care either. We're going to skip over the first 5. I can think of a lot more than 5. But we are talking about brake lines. What is kink? Whoa, back up. What is kink when we talk about brake lines? Kink is when you have surpassed the ultimate strength into the necking phase and you are moments away from failure. You guys didn't take metallurgy in college? Neither did I. So there's this thing called Young's modulus, and basically what it's talking about is the stress that metal can take versus the strain. Now stress is rigidity. Have you ever dropped a camshaft on the ground and you break? That's rigidity. And strain is how flexible it is. And Young's modulus refers to the elasticity. And it's basically how much pressure can be exerted to a piece of metal before it deforms. And that deformed part is called yield strength. And here's a piece of welding rod. All right, so it's pretty flexible. I mean, you can move it and it'll snap back to its original. But at some point, you can apply so much pressure to where it doesn't spring back, it deforms. And that is a yield point. Then it goes from the yield point to strength hardening. We have surpassed the yield strength. And strength hardening is where the crystal structure in the metal actually changes. So little molecules and crystal thingies, they rearrange and they become harder. It's work hardening. And so, I mean, with this, you can tell because see how shiny it is, and then if you get to here, it's not quite so shiny. Well, that's because it's stretched. It's actually somewhere between the stress hardening phase, and this is called ultimate strength. And ultimate strength is where, you know, when you bend a piece of pipe, for example, and you press on it, and it get really, really hard, that is this ultimate strength. Now, boys, settle down. Girls, stop giggling. You're just leading them on. And then from there, and necking is just before failure. So here's a rubber band. Now, as we stretch it, it gets thinner, and it also changes color. So that we have passed the strain hardening, or work hardening, and we are into the necking phase, which means it gets thinner. See if you compare the two, see how much thinner it is? And then as you put it back, notice it doesn't change color. So we have changed the structure of this rubber band at this point where we stretched it. And failure is essentially a crack. And one is you end up with a brake pad that's dragging, and it overheats the rotor, and then it cooks the grease, and then you drive around in circles, and it's like, oh my God, what's going on? What's been... Anyway, yeah, so this used to be 72 inches long. Just like old age, it kind of shrunk. Well, anyway, it was, when I bought it, it was kind of bent up, not so much like a pretzel, but it certainly wasn't straight. So I cut up the pieces and started, making my brake pipes, and I noticed that we had some kink in the flare itself. Like right there, that's an easy one to see. So then I started looking at all of them. Here's a good flare. See, it's symmetrical. All right. Here is a kinked flare. How could this be? I mean, I've done a bazillion of these things, and I've never come across this. Well, let me show you. So we'll just take our calipers, and the side that has the kink is right there, and we'll measure it. And we have 6.64. Flip it over the side that doesn't have the kink right here. And it's 0.79. So the thinner side is the side that's going to buckle and end up with our kink. In part one of this brake pipe saga, I said, oh, I'm not going to buy one of those sex toy pipe straightener thingies. That, just a hole in the board was sufficient. Well, I did. It isn't. My thinking was maybe I can run this through and kind of straighten, push the metal back where it was. I ran it through the hole in the board to just kind of straighten it out. And did it straighten it out? Yeah, it did. But I first stick this thing in here. It doesn't want to go. I'm kind of giving this a little twist as I stick it in here. And as I push on this, it's twisting the pipe in my fingers. I'm trying to turn it while I do this, and it doesn't want to do that very easily. God. Now it's getting pretty easy. This side is getting pretty easy. And I can feel that it's not round. So let's see if it's gonna kink. Well, who really gives a rat's ass? You probably don't. Why? Because you know where your rent's been. Me, not so much. Too many wild nights. Was in your car in the car park. Yeah, right. I got it from a buddy, and my buddy had a cousin who had a girlfriend. So yeah, I don't know where her rear end's been. What I do know is it's a power lock. I also know that it's got the good gear ratio. I could put it in a Series 1, and if I do, I don't have to do anything. If I put it in a Series 2, well, my Series 2, I don't have to do anything. But Series 3 and XJSs have got really high gear ratios. They're 2.8 to 1, typically. I'm sure that there's one out there, and if you've got one that doesn't, good for you. Me, I don't. Mine are North American cars. They all have 2.1s. It's great for going fast. Getting across the street a little bit faster, it pulls a little bit of weight. It'll still get you a ticket. If I put it in XJS or the Series 3, I'm going to have to modify this rear end. Now, I know it's a controversial topic. I'm going to be doing this entire video in metric. Now, Imperial guys, let's not get your panties in a twist. I'm right there with you. I grew up on the same side of the planet as you did. I'm old, and my first go-to unit of measurement is Imperial, but I'm switching sides. I'm talking about measurement systems. Sheesh. Not judging. Oh dear. Seriously? Caliper? Hold on. Let's see what we got in here. All right, so we're gonna stick this in here, make sure we got the dies facing the right way. We do. And need a little bit of lube. Nobody likes dry. All right, and we'll stick this in here, flop that over, stick that like that, snug it down, and pull the lever, tighten it down, flip it over to op 1, 3/16. Oh, I don't know. It didn't feel like it, because usually you can feel it when it's going to kink, because when you pull it, it'll be a little tough, and then it'll be a little notchy. Notchy. So let's see. And we have, yep. See, this whole side here is all kinked. And that side isn't. So this is garbage. Ow, son of a... So why did I waste all your time talking about kink? Well, I marked up these two pipes. One has a kink in it and the other one doesn't. And then I put them in this caliper here. This is a pipe with a kink. There is the kink. And if you look, the side with the kink actually seats well, but on the other side where it's not kinked, see how it's kind of lopsided? It just kind of pushed that flare over, and we don't have a real good seat on it. This is the one without the kink. And the other thing, if you notice, if you look where the pipe nut fits, it's symmetrical pretty much all the way around. This one, it's not. It hits there, and not so much there where the kink is. And if you look at the ends of them, where they meet the mating surfaces on the inside of the caliper, the one with the kink is not symmetrical. It's a little thin on that side. So it wasn't a complete waste of time. So what's the moral of the story on this? Well, don't buy 7 feet of pipe thinking you can cut it up, make all the little pieces, and save yourself some money. It didn't work for me. Maybe if yours isn't bent up like a snake, it might. So why am I sharing this? Well, obviously I don't want you to make the same mistake I did and find out that they leak and you think that Mark at JagMods is a complete idiot. Well, beside that, are you still with me? Hey you, in the corner, wake up. Oh, you're gonna love this. Remember I said not to send your wife over to your perv neighbor to distract him while you go steal the copper tubing off of his ice maker? And this, my friends, came off of an ice maker. Yep, this is copper. This isn't NiCop. There's no nickel in it. How do I know that? Well, first off, color. Second, the oxidation. NiCop. Notice the difference. This has nickel in it, so it's going to be lighter. This is full-on copper. This isn't going to last. But since we have it, let's put it to good use. Stick this in there. Sweetness. Now there's a couple ways you can go about doing this. You can just like bend this up and ta-da! Or you can measure. This bend here is probably the most important as far as getting it dead nuts on. Did I say there was going to be a little bit of math? No? Well, surprise! Oh, and for you guys in UK, it's maths. So the first thing you want to do is you want to bend up something, and this was one of my failed attempts. And whatever your tool is, you want to get a 90-degree bend. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take that and you're going to stick it on a piece of paper, and you're going to make a line like that on the inside, and then you're going to take something that's got a 90-degree. What we're doing is I'm lining up this and this where they first touch, and this is called, these 2 points are called the setback, and this crotch here is called the mold point. Oh, I'm just going to leave that one alone. And so what you do is you draw a line. So we've got our setback, and we've got our mold point. I'm just going to call this SB to save video time. But we're actually after our bend radius. And our bend radius is somewhere in here. So this is how you find it. Then what you do is you take our square again, and where they touch, where these 2 lines touch, which is right about there, we're going to make another one. And this, my friend, is our bend radius. So we'll just take our handy dandy little caliper, and we will measure it, and it is, put it there. So we've got 12 millimeters. Calculate how much material we have. 2 pi. I know, you sat in math, dozing off, thinking, when am I ever going to use this ridiculous stuff? Well, today is the day. And that's going to be over 4. And we're going to multiply that by 12. All right, so we have, aha, pi times 2 equals, divide that by 4, says 1.57. So we have 1.57 times 12 equals, times 12 equals 18.84. So this is how much material it takes to go from this point to this point. Now, that number is important. Now, if you have a tool like this one, then you are a lucky little devil, because that means you don't need to do the math. Go in and rob your significant other's sewing box and pick their measurement tape, and what you do is you stick it on that line right there, and you roll it around to the end, and that looks like 19 millimeters. There you go. And you take it, and we have 11.86, so we'll just round that up to 12 millimeters. Now, if you haven't got a tool like this, then do the math. It might make your life a little easier, and you won't end up with a bunch of these. My beautiful paint job. My beautiful paint job. How much material do you need to make one of these? Well, glad you didn't ask, because I'm going to tell you anyway. The factory uses 260 millimeters, but me, I never play by the rules, and I like mine tight. It looks good, we all know that. So 238 millimeters. Basically have about 22 millimeters of leeway of pipe length. How much material does it take to make a flare? Well, I'm glad you didn't ask, because I'm going to tell you anyway. It is the width of the pipe. So essentially 4.76 millimeters or 5 millimeters, just to round up. So if you're going to do your pipe nice and tight, which is going to be anywhere from 238 millimeters to 245 millimeters, make sure that you add the 10 millimeters on the ends so you have enough to make flares. Because if you take 10 millimeters off of that, you end up with 235 millimeters, and that, my friend, won't work. My beautiful paint job is turned to shit. Call wipes, make sure it's all clean. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to tape up the ends, because if, I don't know, maybe you're better than I am, but that is how I made this. I didn't tape the end up, I pushed it over, and lo and behold, this was on the wrong side of the bend. Dang it. Now, that may not be necessary for you because you're not me, and don't screw up. All right, so this one's not the straightest one in the world, and it was before I got my pipe straightener. So let's take a measurement. Now, this is a Harbor Freight piece of crap. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, see? So I'm just gonna actually work off of this. And I know how long it is anyway, it's 248 millimeters. So we just kind of put that from end to end. And 245, 6, 7, and 8. Half of that is, so 248 divided by 2 equals 124. We're done with this one because this is just a huge source of frustration for me. So then we go to 124. 124, this, mark it. Okay, that's our center line right there, and we're going to be working off of that. So what I do is I just take Sharpie. Again, this is like precision with crayons. It's good enough for the girls I go out with. All right, so there's our center. Just double check it. So we are at the end. There's our center right there. We're going to take half the distance between here, and I'm going to do 78 millimeters, which half of 78 divided by 2 is 39. Here's where things kind of get a little interesting. Remember the bend allowance that we were talking about? So we're going to take 39 minus 19. So that's going to give us 20 millimeters. So our tool position is actually going to be 20 millimeters off of the center line. I you know, I'm weird, I just kind of mark it both ways. So then we take and we go to 39. Okay, that's close enough. And I'm going to mark that in red. So it's 30 and 39. And then over on this side, we'll do 39 again. Okay, we'll do that in red. So it's not going to go there. All right. And so this is where we're going to position our tool to make the bend. So this one's kind of important. Let's just actually, before we get too far along, let's make sure that this is 78. So 39, 39. So then we're going to take and do 19, 18.84. And this is where our tool goes. So this one's kind of important. Let's do it in green. Just make sure that's 20 millimeters. Right? Yep, 20 millimeters. So green. And the green is going to be our tool position. So that the green line is actually pretty damn important. So this is actually where the bends, where these are going to be popping straight out. This is where we're going to put our tool position. And so this should be 20 millimeters, and that should be 19, 18.84. Just double check. So, yep. And the total distance from here to here, which is going to be 78 millimeters, which is right there. All right, so we are now ready to bend this pipe up. And then when I set my tool position up, so right here, just make sure that I'm on it, and I am. All right, so here's our first bend. And notice that the red line comes right to where, right where we want it to. And then we take our second bend, and we're going to be doing from the center line again, so just double check myself. So it needs to come out just a smidge. There we go, there's 20. So just make sure that you got it straight. So I'm lining this up with that. It's kind of hard to do around a camera. And then we make our next bend, which is right like that. Now, I do 28 millimeters from the end. So, 28, well, we'll do 27. 27, right there. Oh, here, I'll take this tape off. All right, so move it down like that. And bend it. Now the same for the other side. Okay, so now we're going to bend this way. Okay, so A little cockeyed, but that's the beauty of this stuff. All right, we've got our basic shape. So how do you figure the distance between here and here? So what you do is you take a couple pipe nuts with little pieces of pipe in it, and then take your caliper and you measure from hole to hole. And it should give you 103 millimeters is what it should get you. How do I know this? Because I've done this a bazillion times. From center to center, we have 103 millimeters. We'll measure from here to here, which should be 78 millimeters, which it is. All right, so we'll say 79. All right, so we got 79 millimeters. 103 minus 79 equals 24. So what that means is we have to move both sides out for a total distance of 24. So we have to move this side out 12 millimeters, we have to move this side out 12 millimeters. So then what we do is we take the 12 millimeters, 12 millimeters, 12 millimeters, and add it to the 79, which is 91. So we're going to bend one side out until this reaches 91. So that's what we're working from. So now that we take our tool and we're going to bend this out. Let's see, we want to put it like here. So this has to come out 12 millimeters. So just kind of get that right about there. Make sure we're straight. And then we'll pull that out. A little bit more. Okay, and then we go out to 103 millimeters on the other side. Okay, and then we come over to the same spot over here. So I'm just lining up, just doing a visual lineup of that mark. Make sure that we are perpendicular. Actually, I'm going to move it a little bit farther down because it's out of round from the previous bend because it's stretched. All right, so that lines up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to bend this side out until we are at, all right, so we're off. It got a little bit tweaked because the tool moved a little bit. So, all right, there we go. Now let's see if it fits. All right, so let's get this in place here. Okay, there you are. All right, so this was our center line. Notice that it's dead nuts on the seam. That's a good sign. And we've got good clearance and it's nice and tight. Looks great. Good. So there you have it. We've got this beautiful crossover pipe. Fits very nicely, nice and tight, looks good. Now, what to take away from this video? The whole Young's modulus, yeah, I'm a nerd. I gotta know why stuff happens. Well, that's what the whole Young's modulus was about, is why does metal kink? What's going on? And check out your flare. If it looks like a mushroom top, chances are it's got a kink in it. It should be consistent all the way around, and if it does have a kink in it, it might seat, it might not. Me personally, it's a son of a bitch to take that rear end out to replace it, so I am not going to take that chance. When you get a caliper from a remanufacturer, make sure the crossover pipe isn't copper. Look it over. Nicop, copper. Not to mention it looks like crap. If you find yourself with an extra end, kind of know where it came from. Chances are, if all the brake fittings come off the right hand side of the car, it came out of a Series 1 or a Series 2. And that's all great if you want to put it in a Series 1 or a Series 2. But if you plan on putting it in an XJS or a Series 3, you're going to have to modify it. And not to overstate the obvious, if you haven't got a tool like this one, do the math or the maths. It'll save you a whole lot of time, and not to mention a whole lot of pipe. If you're still with me, thank you for watching. Tell your Jag buddies about Jag mods. Leave a comment if you like this video. The next video is going to be in setting up the handbrake cable, which is proven to be a little bit more difficult than it would seem. This rear end came out of a Series 1 or a Series 2. I'm going to be putting it in my Series 3. Actually, it's going to bounce around. Its final resting place will probably end up in the XJS. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Well, actually, no, you'll see me on the next one. On that note, I'm out. Thanks for watching.